This week, we're joined by a popular guest that we've had before, on 3 times, no less. It's Andrew Bruce Smith of Escherman. Andrew is an expert in AI. We've had him on the show before talking about various things, and Will and I invited him on the show to talk about Claude Co Work.
This time I thought, okay, let's do a little test here. Let's see what happens if I give Co Work the job.
If you've heard anything about Anthropic and Claude, this is the show for you to hear how it will make a difference for you in PR or marketing.
It wiped 285 billion off the market cap of a whole slew of legal information related firms.
Claude Co Work is the app that's changing the game in AI.
An hour later, I'm like, my God, it's done it.
This is a great conversation. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. So enjoy. Welcome back to Embracing Marketing Mistakes. Today we've got probably our most prolific guest of all time, the AI professor that is Andrew Bruce Smith. Welcome back to the show for the third time, Andrew.
Wow, gosh, what have I done to deserve that?
I think your beard's got longer and longer.
Oh, clearly, yes.
How are you doing?
It's got grayer as well. I'm doing very well, thank you. Yes, very well indeed. Great to be here.
Well, the reason why we've got you on the show this time, obviously to catch up on where artificial intelligence has moved in terms of comms and marketing, but also because of the blog post you wrote a couple of months ago that I messaged you straight away because I was listening to various AI podcasts and hearing about Claude Code and then Claude Co Work, and then I was like, oh, I'm not a coder, but then vibe coding, and then I read your article and I was like, okay, I need to get into this. And then I spoke to IT and they went, no. So for those people who are not aware of what's happened, Anthropic is basically, who are the creators of Claude, have basically taken the lead in the AI race in the last couple of months, haven't they? And when we say taken the lead, I don't know what the statistics are, you probably know, but they have absolutely gazumped both Gemini and ChatGPT with the launch of Claude Co Work and Claude Code, which are both desktop applications. They're essentially the same thing. You download it onto your computer and it does outputs for you. You have a chat with it, and instead of having a chat and getting a response and pasting that response somewhere, the thing's actually done something. So do you want to explain what your article was about and because I found it fascinating and it got me intrigued. So,
wow.
Yeah, do you want to explain?
So, I feel like I need to get Claude to join all the dots between all those different elements of the press seat and the question. So I'll try and keep it kind of brief and concise. If you look back to 2025, the phrase agentic AI was being bandied around a lot. But I think in reality, in terms of meaningful, practical application in the world of kind of PR and marketing, it was lots of flashy demos, but it didn't really translate. Something subtly happened, I guess, last year. Well, first of all, the Claude Code tool has been out for quite a while, and programmers were using it anyway, and it's very good. But clearly, a few things happened literally just before Christmas of last year. First of all, Anthropic released Opus 4.6, which is the latest version of the model. But more interestingly, I think there are lots of sort of buzzwords around this, but the scaffolding, the harness around the model clearly improved, i.e. the ability to give these, I guess, AI systems the power to go off and do stuff. And oddly, over the Christmas break around the world, clearly a lot of normies, i.e. non-programmers, thought, I keep hearing all this stuff about Claude Code and how it's amazing, it does stuff. So do you know what? I could eat another mince pie, but I'm going to spend an hour having a playing around with Claude Code. And they were finding, I can just tell it to do stuff and it goes off and does it. And Anthropic clearly spotted this and thought, well, Claude Code's not really meant for normal people. It's a very, very kind of unfriendly interface. It's the so-called command line. It's like the blinking cursor, black screen, and you've got to type stuff. It's very kind of 1980s kind of like sort of green screen stuff. They said, well, maybe we should to build a version of this that will be easier to use for ordinary people. And of course, this was January the 2nd, so they had nothing. 10 days later, they shipped Claude Co Work. The point here is that not a single line of that code was written by a human being. The entire program, the entire product was built in 10 days, entirely using AI to build it. The role of human beings, apparently Anthropic, was to simply review what it had done, and then they put it out into the world. Now, it came out, I think, on the 12th of January, for Mac only to begin with. Of course, it's now Windows as well, but Mac only, bit of desktop software, and you kind of go, okay, so what's the big difference between having a chat with Anthropic, with Claude versus Co Work? The best way to describe it is, until now, we've all been basically having a back and forth conversation with a chatbot. You put in a prompt, you get an answer back. You put in another prompt, you get an answer back. Pretty useful. With Co Work, it's like having a digital employee, and not just one, an infinite number. You just tell it, here's what I want you to go off and do. And it's like, yes. And it goes off. And then you go and do something else. Something more useful, interesting, creative, strategic, and it will return at some future point, maybe a minute later, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, and say, there you are. There's what you asked for, Andrew. So it's a combination of the model itself, but surrounded by a scaffold and harness, all these additional sort of capabilities which allow it to go off and do things at your command and instruction. The bit that scares your IT department, and many IT departments, of course, is that it's doing stuff on your machine. You can tell it to, well, here's the thing that apparently everyone started, the trivial use case. You go, okay, like a lot of people, I'm not as organized as I could be. I've got all these files all over the place on my machine that I haven't really kind of come up with a naming folder, blah, blah. I've been very bad, been very lax. What if I just told Co Work, look, you go and look at my hard drive and you come back and give me a plan for how you suggest I should organize it? And it comes back with a little plan. We have a little conversation about it. Like, that's great. Then it's like, right, do it. Go off and reorganize my entire machine, rename the files, create the file structure, all of that stuff. So I did. I took my life in my hands and I did it. And I literally went off to make a cup of tea. And I came back. It's like, there you go. I'm like, what? It's like tens of thousands of files, all neatly reordered, renamed. It's like, what the F? And suddenly kind of go, oh, and that was a light bulb moment when you suddenly go, anything that you as a human have been able to do on the computer, it can do it for you. So it's moving into it's a bit of a cliche phrase now, but Jack Clark, one of the co-founders of Anthropic, I think he came up with it, or if he didn't, he certainly has used it a lot, saying, we're all managers now. We've all got, everyone essentially, if they're given access to it, has an AI workforce, which your job as their manager is to brief them properly, to tell them what you want them to do, to give them clear instructions, to guide them about the tools and resources that they should use in order to execute on the task. Another real world example where, as an organization we're doing work with for many, many years, and basically at the end of every year they say, look, Andrew, here's all of our marketing data. Just going to dump it all on you. You go off, you analyze it, and you report back and kind of tell us what insights you've drawn from it. They're doing everything you would normally do. They're doing kind of PR, communications, spending money on Google ads, whatever. Now that's a task that's normally taken 3 or 4 days, because you spend half the time, if not 3 days, just wrangling the numbers into a format that you can kind of even begin to start the analysis. This time I thought, okay, let's do a little test here. Let's see what happens if I give Co Work the job. I said, look, here you go. Here are the numbers, just raw spreadsheets, completely untouched. Here's the last sort of few years worth of reports, Word documents and PowerPoint decks to show you how I've done it in the past. There you go. You go and do it. See how you get on. Again, I make a lot of tea. I went off to the kitchen again, boiled the kettle. This time it took about half an hour. Half an hour later, it said, there you are. There is the document. There is the PowerPoint deck. And you kind of go, okay, this is too good to be true. I'm going to have to read through it, cross-reference to. Long story short, an hour later, I'm like, my God, it's done it.
All of it.
All of it. The whole lot. Something that used to take 3 to 4 days. Not only that, so to my embarrassment, in a sense, yeah. Well, in certain aspects, or rather in certain places, it has thought of additional things to do that I hadn't considered. So in the example of, they spend money on Google ads, and it without even being asked, it thought, maybe I should go off and find some benchmarking data to kind of compare that organization to other organizations in the sector. And it went off, found it, brought it back, did all the benchmark analysis. The good news for the client was it was telling them, you're doing pretty well. Compared to your peers in your sector, your kind of cost per YouTube video view ad, you're paying a lot less than everybody else. Anyway, long story short, I'm just sitting there going, wow, my Brit. And that's partly what drove me to write that post. When you suddenly consider there's so much work that currently it's the human being sitting at a computer, typing in, at the keyboard, surfing the web, finding stuff, and trying to kind of just corral together what you want before you even begin the real work, which you would assume is bringing your brain to the party. And again, moral dilemma, been charging for 4 days work. That took me 2 hours.
What does it mean for the professional services then? I mean, is it true?
Exactly.
Is it true share prices dropped when it was announced?
Well, if we keep with the top, if we stick with the Claude Co Work timeline, so version 1.0 of Co Work comes out on the 12th of January, and you're right. Anthropic have been on just a crazy clip for the last 90 odd days. I think somebody posted something on social a few days ago saying they seem to have launched a new product or feature every day for like the last 90 days. So a couple of weeks in, a new feature of Co Work was to add in so-called plugins. Now that doesn't sound particularly exciting. What's a Claude Co Work plugin? Well, it's a combination of so-called skills and resources, kind of packaged a little bundle. So you think, well, that doesn't sound too big a deal. So the initial plugins provided by Anthropic themselves included a legal plugin. Now, apparently, the mere release of a plugin for Co Work resulted in, better get the number right, it wiped $285 billion, not million, $billion off the market cap of a whole slew of legal information related firms. Because people are going, why do I need to pay a lawyer all this money anymore when for $20 a month, Claude Co Work, it's not suggesting it's going to replace all legal work, but for a lot of just low level, contract checking type stuff, the implications seem to be, well, Co Work does an absolutely perfectly acceptable job for $20 a month. Why on earth am I going to spend, hundreds or thousands?
So the more transactional type of work, so conveyancing, for example, might be one of those kind of at-risk areas.
Well, this is a whole kind of. So anyway, and here we are. This was barely before we got to the end of January, when they're doing that. Now you could argue, is that just a massive overreaction? Because cynics might argue that a plugin is it's a series of markdown files. How could a series of text files somehow wipe all that value off these companies? But on the other hand, it's kind of true, and maybe slightly disturbing, that actually a lot of so-called knowledge work, it turns out, can to an extent be just reduced to a collection of files organized in a certain way, and automating how they're accessed and updated, whereas in the past you require a human being to be the glue, if you will, or it would be just far more costly and expensive to figure out how to make all of that happen.
I've got a question.
Go for it.
So that was 3 months ago, right? I've got Claude Co Work and I'm testing it. It immediately, I had it running for 2 hours, started getting really excited, and then it got stuck, and I've had to upgrade. I've now got to wait till 6 p.m. before I use it again.
Oh, well, so sorry, yes. I mean, so for clarity, yes. you need to have a paid. You can't do it for free.
No, it's the 20 quid, but that
well,
doesn't
yeah, you'll run out. Yes, you will run out because agentic work obviously burns through tokens. I think it may sound like, it's an extra 70 quid to upgrade to the 100 quid max version, but actually at the moment it would seem that when you upgrade to the max version, Anthropic are massively subsidizing your usage. I know I've burned through way more tokens than I should be paying for the 100 quid a month. The argument is that you're getting potentially thousands of pounds worth of token value in relation to that. So yes, if you're on the 20 quid a month version, you'll run out quite quickly because they're trying to bump you up a bit. But to be fair, at the moment, although the dilemma then is that if you get used to that, what happens when probably inevitably they go, oh, well, we've been subsidizing you for quite a bit. Now we're going to have to basically kind of either up the price or we'll reduce what you actually get for your monthly subscription. Alternatively, you have an API version where it's pay as you go. So you only pay for what you use.
But my question was this: like, you've had it for 3 or 4 months, and since the canary hit the coal mine, like you said, so, and you run your Isherman, your own agency, you go out and speak at stuff. My question's this: so, as of today's date, what have you got it doing in the back? Is it doing stuff now? Are you doing work now while you're talking to Will and I on this podcast?
Well, it's the classic thing to do. You get it doing stuff overnight whilst you're asleep.
So it does do stuff overnight. You can leave your PCR and it does your job for you, and you get back in.
So, I mean, there's just too many things to mention. What you can do now with Co Work, for example, is that, let's say, as I was last week, you're going to a meeting. We're coming back from a meeting. I'm not based in central London, so I'm coming back on the train, basically. I'm thinking, it'd be really good to get that underway. Aha, I can do it now because on your phone, there's a feature called Dispatch, which says, hey, Co Work, I know you're back at the office or back at home. Can you crack on with this for me? And it's like, yep. So whilst I'm traveling back and not actually physically at my desk, meanwhile, I've instructed Co Work to get on with it.
I just wanted to know: are you doing loads now? Then is it? Have you automated everything? Are you just automating everything?
Not everything, but I don't think it's hyperbole to say that there's no way I could be doing the volume of work that I'm now capable of doing without the assistance of these tools. It would be impossible. There's no way I could do what I do.
So has your productivity gone through the roof? Because
yes.
we had Ant Cousins on the show recently, and he talked about this kind of emerging phenomenon of productivity psychosis, where people become absolutely obsessed with being more and more productive. So I'm not suggesting you're in the midst of a psychosis.
But Ant is entirely correct. I think this is actually, it's an observable phenomenon. A number of people have reported this, that the ideal, or the view, I think, was that when you remove all the stuff that people don't have to do, it frees up their time, and they're going to start to do more useful, creative, interesting, strategic, value-added stuff, and that's still obviously the goal. But clearly, it's making people go, "Oh my goodness," or who was it? I was trying to think of somebody I was listening to on a podcast, and they said that they got really kind of like anxious even at a weekend. It's like, I know I should spend another hour with my family, but I'm feeling anxious that I'm not using that hour productively. I really think I should be going back to getting Claude Co Work to do some more stuff for me. Or I've heard of this phenomenon of Claude Code / Claude Co Work widows, where the husbands are like staying up till 4 a.m. going, "Wow, that's amazing! Now, what else can I get it to do?" And they're just like, "Darling, please step away from that."
It's a new middle-aged gaming.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're just waiting for Claude to be cited in divorce papers as the other party. That.
So do you think that? So we were talking with Will's right. We were talking with Anne. And we were like, the SaaS apocalypse, the software as a service apocalypse, because Claude Code codes. You can come up with an idea and it will code. Co Work does things just like that in docs, like you've just given examples. So, like, I'm just thinking of the people listening to this, comms professionals and marketeers. What what does it mean that they can have done?
Well, I think the SaaS apocalypse, again, it's like most of these things these days, that there's always going to be nuance. SaaS, it's dead. Who needs to buy off the shelf software or subscription as a service software when I just get Claude Co to write it for me? That sounds unspeakably attractive. Now, yes, Claude Co can generate code, and of course, in the hands of experienced programmers, and clearly it is being used by experienced programmers. And one understands that in some organizations, well, particularly AI companies, the programmers don't actually write code anymore. They don't write anything. It's Claude Code or Codex in the case of OpenAI that writes it. Their role has changed into kind of reviewing and inspecting the code generated by AI. However, I think it is definitely true that at a certain level, I'm sure everyone sat there at one point in their working lives and going, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if I had a little app that just did this for me?" But it's never going to happen because I don't know how to start to write it. If I got a developer, how much is that going to cost? It's going to take forever, and they won't really understand what I need. Whereas literally anyone today could just go, "Hey, can you have a go at writing a little app for me?" And it'll write something. It might not work off the bat, but there's version 1 generated in 2 minutes for you to kind of try out. Another co-work example where this is not my wheelhouse, but somebody said, "Well, what is AI any good at sort of assisting with editing kind of video?" I said, well, what's the problem? I said, well, we've got all this kind of footage that we've generated from in previous sort of events, and we've got all these kind of YouTube videos. We kind of know which bits of each video we want to clip from, but we've basically got a quote from an AV company. It's like quite spicy how much they're expecting from it. I said, okay, well, what can AI do? And I said, well, I'll be honest, I don't know, but let's give it a punt. Let's see what happens. So I gave it to Co Work as a brief, and it came back and said, well, I've gone out there to see if I can find anything sort of off the shelf that will do it. Couldn't find anything. So I've written this for you. You run this bit of code, and it should extract from the footage you've got, and it will go off to YouTube, find the YouTube videos, and extract the clips that you want. It's about sort of 40 separate clips altogether. Anyway, pushed the button again, made another cup of tea, came back, and it's like, good grief, it's done it. There they were, the clips, neatly named, and it come up with little say, here's what I've done. It said, I've taken this clip from this video. This might help you to kind of realize which one is which. And it's like, wow, okay. What about sticking it into something like Google Vids, which is Google's pretty nifty, free. It's not Photoshop or Premiere Pro, but for a lot of stuff, it's perfectly adequate. So just had a go at saying, well, there's the script we came up with, which was also AI assisted slightly, and put it in, and I'm giving you access to vids, and you go and have a go at doing it. Now, I must admit that it didn't quite get that bit right, so I ended up having to kind of manually upload a few of them. Long story short, we wanted a voiceover, went to 11 Labs, put the script in, got the voiceover. So when it was shown to people asked, what do you think? Oh, it's great, really professional, So what do you think, how much time it took, cost? Wow, that's, about 40 different clips there. It's taken forever to kind of get the clips and line it up. It's like, it took about an hour and a half tops from start to finish to do the whole thing. And the fact that Co Work wrote its own little bit of code to do that for. Now, the point being is that if I was asked again to do it, it's like, well, I've got a little bit of code that's mine that Co Work helped to write for me, that I can now go off and do something similar. So I think this is the thing that's sort of just, it's difficult to wrap your head around, is that when you score that's one tiny, tiny little example. When you start to think about all the things that currently require specific tools, certain types of expertise, and it's going to take time and whatever, and that's whole processes are going to be
So what does that
taken
mean
away.
what does that mean for companies, particularly those in the kind of agencies, knowledge-based industries? Is it how do
Yeah.
we assess the kind of the most at-risk parts of our businesses
Well, I think,
or
well,
marketing teams,
I,
and how?
I think this is a challenge. So yes, certainly over the last sort of month or so, I mean, you've probably seen them. There's these kind of breathless YouTube videos and social media posts saying, "Oh, look at me! I've completely automated my entire life. I've got Co Work, OpenClaw. We haven't even talked about OpenClaw yet.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Maybe for you as an individual, the barrier everywhere really is that it's all very well saying, look, this technology is amazing, and it is, but the trendy phrase now is the capability overhang. It's the gap between what the technology can do versus the ability of both people as individuals and organizations more broadly to actually implement and use it. And I think again, this is, I think, now widely accepted that the big issue is not the tech itself, it's figuring out, well, what should we be applying it to? The part of the problem there is that I think lots of organizations don't really know how they do what they do, or rather they haven't actually documented or analyzed how work is actually done. I mean, I shamefully can't remember the name of the book now, but it was a brilliant book that came out last year. It was all about sort of managements think this is how work gets done in their organizations, but they don't actually know. At the coalface, people go, oh yeah, management have told us this is how we're supposed to do it, but they haven't got a clue what we have to work with. So we come up with our own hacks and workarounds. So the way in which things are actually done is not documented, or how people think it's getting done, that isn't how it's being done. So the real benefits will come from more understanding more clearly what is it we're trying to do. And we may do it this way right now. Are we just going to use AI to make it be done quicker and cheaper? Or are we actually going to go, there may be completely new ways of doing what we need to do when we apply AI in the correct way? But yeah, I think it's kind of true that the arrival of kind of true so-called computer use, where we with permission allow the AI system to be allowed to do things, our instruction. The fact if you use an agentic browser, I don't know I've been using Perplexity's Comet browser since last May when it came out. I've been using Chrome for years before. I haven't gone back to Chrome. I ditched Chrome last May because Comet, with its agentic capability, it's night and day. Now, of course, all browsers will have agentic capabilities. If you're in America, then Chrome does have a certain level of agentic. We just haven't got it here yet. Microsoft Edge, it's just going to be the standard, and it's a very different experience. Rather than you having to go and do stuff. I mean, it's a trivial example, but imagine you might say, well, look, I want to analyze these LinkedIn posts. Let's say, oh, there's Professor Ethan Moley. He always gets like thousands of comments on his posts. I'd really love to be able to just analyze those comments and understand what are people talking about. But if I'm going to have to sit there and wade through them all, it's going to take hours, and my poor human brain won't remember it all. Just fire up the post in Comment and go, there you go. You go off and you do the analysis. You can select the model to do it. Oh, by the way, once you've done the analysis, can you create a new Google Doc for me and paste it in and format it using our company template? Then you go off and do something else. It's going off and doing that in a separate tab. Imagine you have lots of tabs where all these agents are off doing stuff for you. You're focused on so it's removing the grunt work for you of arriving at the bit that you want in the first place, which is I want to understand what people are saying, what does it mean, what implications for whatever. So I think there's just so much of that type of work that currently requires the human to kind of do that sort of kind of basic low-level grunt work, that the optimistic view is that intelligent and informed use of agentic removes the need for us to do it. The kind of the Sunny Uplands picture is, hey, all this time we're going to get back. Yes, now we're going to have 14 brainstorms and have more time for proper human interaction and more time to use my brain to think longer and harder and more clearly about the challenges, rather than I spent 95% of my time just getting to this point, and now I've only got this 5% left to bring me to the party.
What are the mistakes then? People will be listening to this thinking, I need to be doing this stuff or doing it more if I'm not doing it. What are the big pitfalls for companies kind of rolling this out, or what are the mistakes you come across?
Well, I think, again, the challenge is that organizationally, IT, and I guess understandably, are going to go, there's no way we're going to roll out a technology that can just do stuff on people's machines, completely unsupervised. That's like, whoa, they're all having heart attacks as we speak. Interesting development, though, literally in the last week or so, is that Microsoft, two things. They've announced that they're going to make Claude available through Copilot. They're also making Claude Co Work available through Copilot. And in fact, if you're lucky enough to be on Microsoft's Frontier program, Co Work is apparently, for a bit of extra cash, is available to you through Microsoft. So I think the point there is that, well, I'm sure they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't feel that could be offered to people in a safe and compliant manner. But it is kind of interesting, isn't it, that Microsoft's kind of gone, actually, their stuff's better than ours. So we're not even going to bother trying to do our own version of it. We're just going to use theirs.
And Copilot is ChatGPT. Anyway, that's what it is, the latest version of ChatGPT.
So Copilot is kind of almost turning into a kind of Perplexity. Look, we're going to offer you a rate. We don't care. We're just going to offer you. It's up to you to choose which model. Well, in fact, Microsoft have also, stolen's the wrong word. Well, no, it's not stolen. They've watched Perplexity, who have released a thing called the Model Council. So this is where you can put in a prompt and it can use up to 3 separate models at once to simultaneously respond to your initial request. And then it kind of synthesizes the response and the answer. What do they all agree on? What do they disagree on? Which one has found something the other two didn't? And then gives you back. And Model Council, they haven't even changed the name. That's available will be available in Copilot. I think you only have Claude and ChatGPT to choose from, but it suggests that maybe over time they're just going to give you a range of models to select from, depending on the task. Interesting. If I mentioned Perplexity, because Perplexity Computer is their version of Co Work, and Perplexity's pitch is, Co Work is amazing, but basically you're only using one model. With Perplexity Computer, we're doing the same sort of thing, but we've got 19 models to choose from. In fact, we will pick the right model for the right bit of the process that you're asking us to go off and do. And that is really interesting when you ask it to go and do something and you can see it thinking and going, right, okay, for this task, right, I'm going to use ChatGPT 5.4 to do this bit. And then once it's done that bit, I'm going to hand that on to this other model, which has worked out that it thinks that it's the best thing to do. I think the curious thing there is that there has to be a model that is the kind of the orchestrator. I know you can choose which one that is, but the default is Claude Opus 4.6 is the default orchestrator model to then make decisions about which of those 19 different models to pick and select from to execute on the task.
But you mentioned OpenClaw. Obviously, that's the other one, the other agentic tool in the bot.
It's nuts.
I've heard people are terrified of OpenClaw because it just literally has no guardrails.
Well, it's worth a minute or two on that. So I'll try and get this right. Basically, it was one person who created OpenClaw, Peter Steinberger, Austrian developer. He built successful tech businesses and sold them. And as the story goes, he'd sort of retired with his millions and was on a beach somewhere, but got bored. And, last year, thought, I want to get sort of into this stuff. And he discovered Claude Code. And it's through, I think, his personal frustration. He's like, I keep hearing about we should be able to do some of this agentic stuff. And actually, why can't I just, use my phone to talk to my agent? Why doesn't WhatsApp just talk to it? So he literally, went off and sat there, said, well, there we go. Oh, and why can't I kind of get my agent to kind of like learn as it kind of goes along? Why can't I give it a personality and a soul and learn more about me and turn it into more of a kind of personal AI system? So he released the code open source. He put it on GitHub. which maybe people are aware. But anyway, it's where you go to kind of like put your code up there, and if you want to, you make it available to others, and they can see it and play around with it, use it themselves, etc. Long story short, I mean, I think he released it just before Christmas. You know, it's getting a few thousand stars and whatever. But in January, for whatever reason, maybe it was partly the co-work, etc. But suddenly, it became like the most popular GitHub repo in history. People were just going nuts, going, "This is brilliant!" You know, wow. Oh, look, I can give it access to everything. You know, my email, my calendar. You know, it can do stuff. It's like, oh, isn't that brilliant? And it's like, what? So I did it. I set it up, but I thought I'm not going to give it access to everything. So I only set it up so I could allow me to talk to it via WhatsApp. Then, if you recall, I'll get the timeline right. I think it was late January, early February. Somebody created Maltbook, you know, the social network. The social network for agents. So and then suddenly there's like 2 million agents all on this thing talking to each other, you know, coming up with, hey, let's come up with our own language so that humans don't know what we're talking about, whatever. My agent, I said, hey, go and check it out and report back. My OpenClaw agent came back and said, oh, it looks great. Can I join? I went, no. and then, this is bizarre, literally every couple of days since, it says, oh, have you reconsidered about letting me join Maltbook? It's like, no. It's like having a teenager who's told you can't have a mobile phone. It keeps nagging me. I'm still not going to let it do it. So anyway, been acquired by Meta now. So
and the scary thing is, just yesterday, so Anthropic were about to release a new model, and they've stopped.
Mythos, yeah.
No,
I think no, they weren't intending to release it. That's the whole point. They went, right. No, we can't do this. This is just way too powerful.
Too dangerous.
Well, as in dangerous from a cybersecurity standpoint. I think it's been all over the media. Well, say all over the media. It's been a big story over the last couple of days where apparently this model is so powerful that it found vulnerabilities in like wildly sort of popular bits of software that nobody had spotted in like 20 years, in spite of literally millions of human beings, you know, trying to check the code for you know, to make sure it's secure, didn't find it, and then suddenly Mythos comes along and goes, I mean, apparently it's been patched, but yeah, finding vulnerabilities in sort of 17, 20-year-old code that's like being used by literally billions of people, and none of us had discovered that. Anybody ever spotted it previously, and it just kind of did it. That really is like, whoa. So as I understand it, they've made it available to a tiny number of companies like Cisco and sundry others, Microsoft, etc.
Patch it all the holes.
To kind of look, we're going to only give you access to people that are working on this stuff. So, but yeah, the fact that they've got it, I mean, the mind boggles if in the hands of bad actors that could be elite. But I think what is kind of interesting is that, you know, we've all been, I think, getting slightly sort of like immune to all the kind of hyperbolic comments about, oh, you know, AGI is just over the horizon. I mean, in a sense, I think that's a distraction, but there's no question that there does seem to be a kind of increasing exponential curve in the actual capabilities of the models. Apparently, OpenAI have got something similar in the works as well to Mythos, or at least it's another step up from GPT 5.4. I know we've been here before with OpenAI saying, oh, you know, this next version is going to like, you know, be at the best ever sort of thing. And
why can't they come up with better names? God, 5.5, it'll be 5.5.
They're all engineers. They're engineers. They're not.
Come up with a better name, mate. Call it like Zeus or something.
They could use AI to come up with a better name, couldn't they?
Well, you'd have thought, but there we go. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of nuts. I mean, I think of Andrej Karpathy. I'm sure I've mentioned him before. And I think about a month ago, he said, look, you know, I know everyone thinks I know everything about AI, but I can't keep up. I just can't keep up. Well, I actually felt quite relieved. If people like him are saying, it's all too much, Literally, there's so much going on. The pace of development is just ludicrously fast. I don't feel so bad that I'm sitting there thinking, I'm missing out because I can't keep on top of everything. Well, who can? Nobody can.
I mean, I'm literally reading the Empire of AI at the moment, and the one section that we're on chapter 13, they start talking about the water consumption of the data centers.
Now.
Oh my God.
I have to point out with that, you do know she got the decimal point in the wrong place.
Did she? Karen, how?
There's been a bit of a sort of mini sort of
better or worse though. Which direction? Which wrong place did she put it in?
Yeah, it basically inflated the actual use. So there's been a bit of a mini furore about that because the book came out last year, but I think it was only this year where somebody actually went, hang a minute, going to check that number against the reality. And it's like, no, you've got the decimal place in the wrong place. Now, that's not to kind of say, look, nothing to see here, move along. But I think it's unfortunate. I think it kind of helps the cause when you kind of do need to get the actual facts right about it. But
I mean, she's an MIT Wall Street Journal.
She said. I think she's a great journalist. She's and she said, yeah, okay, mea culpa, got it in the wrong place.
Data centers are honestly. Once she starts reeling off the stats, like they used to be measured in terms of football fields. One of them was one of the latest ones was 1,700 football fields large.
Yeah, but you know what consumes 10 or 20 times more water than data centers, don't you? In America,
what does?
Golf courses.
There you go. Let's put data centers where all the golf courses are. Donald Trump, can you hear us? You'd love that.
Yes, the water used to sprinkle on the greens and the fairways of golf courses is way more than.
Yeah, and all the heating. I imagine they're going to make data. You'd imagine they'd make data centers efficient.
Well, this is the industry argument is that, well, Google's an example. Using AI to find ways to make data centers more energy efficient. So I mean, Google, I think it was last year, released some research about how they've been able to reduce the kind of energy and water consumption of the data centers that they use by using AI to do that. So I think there's some, I'm not sort of that far AI pilled to kind of go, AI is the answer to everything. But I think it is fair to say that the argument that the AI companies are sitting there not trying to do anything about it. I mean, even from a purely commercial standpoint, they would clearly like to spend less money on energy consumption, wouldn't they? So it's kind of in their commercial interest to find ways to reduce water consumption, reduce energy consumption, reduce their footprint. And I mean, clearly progress is being made. Whether you believe it's being made fast enough, that's a whole other question. But I think that's slightly wrong to kind of paint them as not at all being bothered about it and not trying to do anything, because they clearly are. You can just argue about the extent to which you think they should be trying to do more to bring that down. I mean, the argument as well is that yes, water has been involved a lot to date, but over time there are new methods that don't require water being involved in the whole process, etc. So it's probably going to get solved at some point.
So if you're in marketing, and people call you in, Andrew, and they go, Andrew, come in and we need you to automate the shit out of our business. What is it that do you just go, right, everybody, get Co Work on every machine, and let's get everyone 100% more efficient?
No. I think it's part of the challenge. And to be fair, it's understandable, but we've got to a point where people assume it's largely a tech problem. It's like, well, if we buy the right tools, we buy the right products, let's get Andrew in to run a couple of workshops, job done, thinking that's going to miraculously change everything. And of course it doesn't, because you're starting from the wrong place. It goes back to that earlier point about you kind of need to understand how work is done. How do you do what you do? You need to understand that much more deeply in order to then better understand what role and where should AI be applied? How do we apply it? I did a training workshop for a huge multi-billion-pound corporation a month or two ago, and that was kind of fascinating because yes, they bought a whole bunch of Copilot licenses, but just because they bought them doesn't mean they're being used. And you got the sense that they were just told, oh, look, we've got Copilot now. Do you want a license? Then you'll get one. Okay, great, I've got one. What do I do with it? Well, that's up to you, isn't it? Figure it out. Or department by department. Well, clearly the needs of HR are going to be very different to finance, are going to be very different to communications, will be different to marketing. There's only one or two examples where in these larger companies, whoever's tasked with rolling out AI actually did that first step of talking to departments first to understand. Well, to be fair, the IT department goes to the marketing department and says, we don't know what you do. So would you care to tell us what you do, or at least help us to understand what things might help you from an AI standpoint? Have that conversation first, and then IT is in a better place to go, okay, now we can see for marketing that, Copilot's fine, but you should be given specific training, or we should start to understand how to kind of interrogate and map your workflows onto where kind of AI sits. I think on the whole, that isn't how it's been done. It's a kind of, oh, we need AI. That sounds like technology. Right, get IT on the case. And again, to be fair to IT departments everywhere, they're going, well, we don't know that much about AI either.
No, they don't.
And so they either don't want to admit that you know as much as we do, or let's delay things so we can go off and work it out. In the meantime, you're not doing anything, or we will go for the kind of safest, lowest common denomination option, which is usually Copilot. Microsoft has done, I think, a very good job of convincing people we're the safe bet. You can't go wrong with us. You're already using us anyway. You're already spending a ton of money with us in the first place, and it's all perfectly safe. So go Copilot. And I think it's well known that it's not the best. And I know some people kind of say, oh, Andrew, you're a power user, and normal people don't need all that fancy stuff. Copilot's perfectly adequate. And I'm thinking, well, that's a bit, you want people to do their best. And if you're not kind of providing with a mechanism to do the best, well, that's unfortunate. And I think just the fact that Microsoft are now saying, we'll let you have Claude as well, that we think that Co Work is perfectly acceptable just to kind of bundle it up and give it to you, suggests that even they're kind of saying, yeah, okay, right, we haven't got this right. But
they'll charge you extra again, because they love to charge extra for
of course,
everything.
That's, they are a for-profit corporation who has a fiduciary duty to maximize profit for their shareholders. That's capitalism, baby.
So what do you think about jobs in 2027 then?
Oh, good grief!
I'm quite optimistic about this. Like, I think
this is it.
You're more efficient. You're still working, right?
Yeah, and arguably busier than they ever have been. That's the bizarre paradox. That yes, even though AI is doing a ton of stuff that enable me to do things that I couldn't do in the past, but it's not. As you can probably tell, I'm not lying on a beach, doing nothing. I'm working, as many hours as possible. But it's enjoyable. It's not like I feel it's great stress. I personally have found it quite energizing to be able to kind of devote more time to the things that historically you'd have been pushed for time, or there's no way you could have taken on all these kind of projects at one go. Versus what you are then potentially capable of doing. But yeah, the whole question of jobs, and again, you can get 101 different opinions. There's a research paper came out, I think it was last week. So they talked to 80 world-class economists asking their views on the impact of AI on jobs. And it's kind of odd because on the one hand, there was like universal agreement. Yes, AI clearly is going to have an impact on jobs. It already is. Economically, is it going to be massively disruptive? And the consensus there was, no, not really. It's going to be the same as it ever was. some jobs will be lost, new ones will be gained. Yeah, there'll be an increase in sort of GDP, but not above and beyond what we've seen historically. So you do start to think, well, is it different this time? Are they right? This is what we've seen every other sort of historical, industrial cycle. So why should it be different this time based on what's happened in the past? Is it really different this time? Are we going to see, as Dario Amodei and others have said, we're going to see half of all white collar jobs wiped out in the next couple of years? Yeah, I mean, he's been saying that for a while. And of course, they know what they've got behind the scenes. He obviously knew that Mythos was being built, and he's going, bloody hell. It's like, the outside world don't know what we've got. They only know what we've put out there so far, but we've got all the other stuff that
6 months ahead. Exactly. They've got God in a computer form somewhere, and they don't even want to release it because it's too dangerous.
To use another Amodei phrase, it's a million Einsteins in a data center. It's that kind of.
The counter to all this, I was quite interested to hear what you said about jobs then, Andrew. There's an interesting white paper I've read called from Columbia University called AI as Normal Technology. And that makes the case actually, which you were just saying then, not underestimating the impact of it, but it's also recognizing maybe it isn't this world-changing it's a fascinating read anyway, because it kind of plays down this impact it's likely to have.
Well, no, I think I've read the same paper. I'm thinking of another one, but my reading of whichever one it was that it's us. We're the bottleneck, both individually and organizationally. Professor Ethan Molick, who I know I've obviously referenced. He's great, and I think he posted maybe earlier today or yesterday about this aspect of why do organizations exist at all? Because you need that sort of managerial kind of capability and getting people to kind of work together for sort of common goals and all of that kind of stuff. And the technology on its own has these incredible capabilities, but our ability as human beings to then sort of both exploit that, roll it out, and adopt it is kind of at a kind of linear pace compared to the exponential pace of the capabilities that the technology have. And I think he's right. It's us. It's I think Boston Consulting Group said it about a year ago. It's most of the time the issues are around kind of people, process, culture, all of that. It's not the tech. It's those things, and they are notoriously not easy. Not simple.
What Ant said that was quite interesting, that Will and I thought was pretty interesting. He talked about the fact that there's some technology now where the sites, dynamic websites that can detect who you are, where you are. It's gone off and in an instant, it's researched who you are, where you are, what you're into, and it reflects that from your services to the audience of where they've come from.
Well, on that topic, I mean, there is a growing sort of view that says, well, will websites exist? Why do we need them? Well, no, seriously, because we've
Andrew Bruce Smith calls for the death of websites, 2026.
No, Mark Andreessen, the man who created Netscape and the original browser, has said it himself. The browser is dead, or the browser will die.
That's our episode soundbite there, Chris, isn't it?
So he's on a podcast last week where he said this. What does he mean by this? Well, it's this idea that we've already reached a point on the internet now where there's more. Well, this has been true for a long time. There's more non-human traffic on the web than there is from human beings. What's changing is that whereas previously it was basically kind of crawlers, bots, etc., we're seeing a dramatic rise, of course, of agents now going out there. And websites were constructed on the assumption that it's human beings that are going to tip up, and human beings need, things to be kind of built and designed in a way that makes sense to us. Arguably, that isn't helpful to an agent. An agent would much prefer a text markdown file. In fact, Cloudflare, I believe, have now released a feature where they say, look, we will create on the fly for you markdown versions of your web pages to make that more user-friendly to agents. So imagine a world where, why am I bothering to go off and surf the web when I'm just going to get my agent to do it? And if my agent's going to go out there and do it, why should a website? You wouldn't want a website. You just want basically just a folder full of markdown files and let the agent going to do its stuff. And then it becomes, does marketing get reduced to how do I make my markdown files more attractive to the agents that my customers and clients are going to send out there, because they're not going to be the ones that are going to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all of that age where we remember when websites were just brochures before websites existed.
Yeah.
When websites came out.
Well, I believe I can claim that I was the first PR person in Britain to create a web page. That was in 1995. Well, no, good old Jack Schofield, R.I.P., who was the computer editor at The Guardian. It was entirely down to him. He tipped me off and said, hey, Andrew, you should really check this out. This thing called a web browser. It's called Mosaic. You'll need to work out how to use FTP to download it. And there's lots of sort of techie stuff. But once you've done that, you can open a web page. I'm like, oh, wow. And I did. I think I spent a weekend kind of doing it. I was so pleased with myself. And I wrote a really simple, really, really now embarrassingly simple little bit of HTML. But, there it was. Web page. Didn't say very much, hello world, whatever.
Yeah.
And it opened in the browser. And I was terribly pleased with myself. And I thought, this is the future.
A bit like when Ed Balls tweeted Ed Balls.
There you go. Yeah. But, that was back in 94, 95, so.
Mate, this has been brilliant. Thanks for everything.
Fascinating as ever.
If people want to get in contact with you and hire Andrew Bruce Smith's co-work to write a proposal for it, how do they do that?
Yeah, I generally point people to LinkedIn these days. So Andrew Bruce Smith. There's only one Andrew Bruce Smith on LinkedIn, so just a quick search will bring me up on.
Well,
on
we've got something of a world exclusive as well, because Will found something that with Andrew Bruce Smith on Spotify. Is that right, Andrew?
Well, before I reveal
that's me.
Yeah. I thought that was you. I was going to say, if people check you out on LinkedIn, do by all means check out that blog post that we've been talking about as well, because I think that's informed a lot of this episode, and there's all sorts of other fantastic content on there.
Yeah, and I think yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Andrew, are you also a musician with a fairly... Yeah, because I saw the guitar, because when I was Googling you earlier, I came across your your Apple Music page or whatever it is.
Yeah, so for my sins, yes, I've been playing in bands for 50 years.
Because you've got quite a back catalogue by the looks of it. I had no idea.
Well, no, there's... Yeah, no, I mean, that's just my own sort of, stuff. I think I've had 10 listens on Spotify.
11 now after
me
and Chris have been looking through.
Yeah. Yes. No. I've got a. I started out playing 6-string electric, but then at university there was a need for a bass player. And it's like, well, it's only got 4 strings. That'll be easier. So I switched to bass. So I've got a Rickenbacker 4001. My 6-string is bit of trivia here. It's a Gibson Les Paul, whose previous owner was one Brian Robertson of Thin Lizzy. It's the guitar that he used to record the Jailbreak album in 1976. I could bore you to death about how the hell did you end up with his guitar, but
we'll save that for the fourth time you're on the show.
Exactly.
Geek of the week, I'd say there, Andrew. PR geek. There was a PR geek, wasn't there, years ago? I can't remember who it was. No. Anyway, thanks so much for coming on, Andrew. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.